Hey everyone, this is Alan of our Cobblers Plus, and today we're going to be working on a pair of Birkenstock Arizona Sandals. So come join us and check out how we're going to be resoling these and replacing the cork footbeds on them. I'm Alan Trushkov. Join us today and enter our world of a cobbler to see the craftsmanship it takes to rebuild and restore footwear and other leather goods, as well as recommendations from our industry. So today we've got these Arizona Birkenstocks that we've got to replace the sole on them, and of course the cork footbed, because it's starting to give out in a few spots up in these areas here. There's a crack going on right there. Now sometimes you can fix that up with a little bit of cork sealant, but these are starting to give out a little more and more, and this gentleman has been using the cork sealant on there, luckily, so that's extending the life expectancy of them. But we're gonna be using, of course, all original Birkenstock materials. We're not using any kind of like upgraded Vibram soles or anything like that. I've got two sets of footbeds, one in a size 42, one in a 43. These are the soft footbed ones, so they've got a bit of a cushion on it. The reason why I have two different sizes is because the size has worn off on there completely, and so we've got to line them up to see which one fits best. And it's one of the great things about having multiple pairs in stock available, because sometimes we got to be able to figure out and guess the size, and this is one of those cases. So I'm assuming they're the 42s, just because of how it measured out and everything, but once I've got majority of the sole off and everything, it'll kind of help me determine that better. But you know, from the writing, it looks like a 43, but the 42 seems to match up more, which is a little bit annoying, honestly, because I honestly grabbed the 43 first, and I was like, all right, that should be it. I double checked, and the 43 just seemed a little bit bigger, just by like a hair. Could be just because it's worn out, of course, though, too. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started by sanding out this area here. No, I mean, I could actually give it a shot. Sometimes these guys can be pulled up fairly easily. This one is coming up. All right, I guess we're gonna go ahead and pull it off. Some cases we have a bit of an issue peeling it up because the adhesive is bonded so well and everything to the material that it just doesn't want to come undone, so it's easier to just sand it all out. But this makes it a bit easier. I guess at this point, since I've already got everything going on here, let's see how well this all lines up. I guess 43 is the winner. All right, good thing I checked that and everything. Sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes the size is obvious. This gentleman, unfortunately, didn't know his exact size in the Birkenstock. And when it gets worn out, it makes it problematic every now and then, where we have to try to match up the size. I just wanted to show you guys that I didn't really have to. I could have actually measured everything out and made sure that it's all the same off camera, but I just want to show you sometimes the struggles of a cobbler, that sometimes we have no other choice but to do so. Oh man. Yep. Go ahead and use a little bit of thinner back in this area there. Probably should have done that beforehand. Makes it a lot easier with the thinner. It helps deactivate some of the glues, but it also has a habit of sometimes making it so that the footbed rips, or the sole rips. I guess I must have just gotten lucky on this one side here where it all just came up, so there's a pretty good chance I'm just gonna have to go ahead and sand everything out. But we're gonna try just a little bit more. Nope, taking too long. guess we're going to go ahead and sand everything out. Well, not everything, but at least this area here and this area right here, so we can get underneath and pull out that upper on here. So I'll go ahead and transfer over to the sander. All right, so we've got everything glued up now. Now it's time to go ahead and stick it all together. I did mark it with a pen just to let you guys see a little bit better, but you can see a couple of lines here. These are actually indicators for different models of Birkenstocks on their footbed. So, you know, the Arizona, it goes to this center line right there, all the way down to about that point there. The back one I like to mark up regardless because they don't have any kind of indicators here on the back except for one way up here, which is not the spot where the strap is going to hit. But at this point, we're going to go ahead and just stick it on now. And I never follow the indicator lines that they have inside here. So you can see there's a line coming around here. I never follow that because sometimes if somebody else has already resold these, it may not match up or something, or maybe just the way it kind of wore or something, because as you can tell, it's never really a straight cut. There's a little bit of zigzagging going on here and there. There's another indicator, like right here is a little notch, and there's a triangular shape on the leather itself that we can use too, but it also doesn't match up always, so we always follow that particular indicator right there, which reminds me, I need to unbuckle these. Makes it a little bit easier during the process of making sure it all lines up nicely if we do the straps separately. Okay, there we go. Now, as far as the glue that we're using, this is a contact cement, so as soon as it comes in contact, it sticks very well, and we have to give it a good while to really cure. But the other thing is that we don't want to be hammering this area down in any formal way because it can deform the cork a little bit, so that's definitely not a good thing to do. So now I can go ahead and buckle things up so that these straps don't flop around on us or anything, and it makes it easier also to hang everything back up while the adhesives are curing. All right, so I'll go ahead and do the other one off camera. I'll grab the Birkenstock soling sheet real quick as well, and I'll meet you guys back over here in just a few minutes. All right, so I've got both straps on the footbed. Now we're gonna go ahead and trace out of this sheet of Birkenstock soling here the new soles. Now we tend to get the sheets just because it's a little more practical. The pre-cuts, they're not practical, especially considering that prices on Birkenstock material are basically constantly going up. So gotta try to save at least a little bit. I mean, it's exactly the same thing as what the pre-cuts are. They just come in sheets instead. We'll just have to put a little extra time on our own to cut everything out. Now, this is what the pre-cuts are like. They just come like that there. They're about a 46, so especially if you have like a size 48, 49, or even in some cases size 50 shoe, those wouldn't work. Those pre-cuts actually barely fit these ones, and they're a 43. So it's as if they're like a 46 narrow or something like that. But we have had some of those size 50s in here a few times. Sorry, I had a phone call come through, but I forgot where I was. But anyways, so at this point we're just going to go ahead and start gluing everything up. Again, we're using the contact cement. And just doing the same thing. all around. Now, as far as the sole options go, the replacement soles that we're able to get in for Birkenstocks, if you're wanting the original, we can only get in black, brown, and white. Any of the newer colors that Birkenstock has available, like the blue, the orange, they're not quite new, but they've been around for a little while now. But those, unfortunately, we can't get in. Those are strictly available, on a new pair. They're not available for a pair being repaired or resold. So if you have one of those pairs, I'm sorry, but there's not much we can do now. What we can do is we could put an aftermarket Vibram sole on there, which does cost a little more, mainly because it is an upgraded sole that you're having put on, because of course the Vibram ones, they're a little bit of a denser material depending on which one you get, and so they last a bit longer. Now the sole that Birkenstock has, it's not bad, definitely. I mean, compared to a lot of the stuff out there that they have nowadays, especially the knockoff versions of Birkenstocks, those things, they use such cheap materials that you'll be lucky to have those last you one season. Well, last you 2 seasons. They'll last you 1 season. That's how they're designed, to really be worn out and used up in just 1 season of wearing them. But with a Birkenstock sole, you at least get a couple out of it, which is definitely better. But what was I going to say? The other thing is also with the Birkenstock sandals in general, there are a few other things that can be done to it as well, like the heel can be upgraded as well on it. So we end up basically, I'll grab this old one, you can see we sanded that old one out there, but we replace a chunk of the heel from here back, which is a little bit denser rubber, so you still have the feel and lightweight material that the Birkenstock sole offers you, but you just get a little bit of an upgrade on the heel portion itself. And that's also an option to do for you, because the heels are usually the first thing to go, as it is first point of impact. But I'll go ahead and finish gluing all these up. I'm gonna do the double coat and everything like we usually do, because this is, after all, crepe material, so it's like a sponge. It absorbs the glue, so we have to apply a few coats as well as with the cork too. And then when it's time to stick them together, we'll meet you guys back over here. Alright, so I just pulled out the sole out of the oven, so it's nice and soft and spongy, a little warm to the touch. But it's the perfect time to go ahead and put the sole on there. Kind of cut it out a little big, but happens sometimes. It's the end of the day, so I'm kind of in the rush here to get these guys stuck together so that they can cure. But still at the same time not cut any form of corners. Alright, and this is why we like to get it nice and warm, because we actually don't stick it onto the press with these too much. I mean, we can, but the problem is that the presses are usually generic. I mean, even the ones that are designed for Birkenstocks and everything, they'll still slightly deform the cork under pressure, and we don't want that to happen. We want these Birkenstocks to go out the door and literally feel like they're brand new, so the break-in is done by the person wearing them, not the press, because everyone's foot is different. Birkenstock has some amazing support features, but they still have to be broken in as well. That cork is designed to mold to your foot. So at this point, it looks like everything's all stuck together nicely all around. Now I'm going to go ahead and just let it cure overnight, and then we'll be back over here to cut off the axis, trim it, and sand it up a little bit, and they're basically done. Oh, and of course treat the uppers, can't forget about that. So we'll probably see you guys back here tomorrow then to finish these out. Alright, so I've allowed these to cure overnight nicely. I've cut off some of that axis. You can still see there's quite a bit left over there, but we need to trim it up closer with a blade or cutter. We wouldn't be able to get any closer than that, otherwise it may end up kind of beveling inward too much or something, and it just turns out a big mess if we try to cut it any closer. But at this point, we're going to go ahead and trim everything. We're over here at one of our machines that has this attachment. It's called a sole trimmer. A lot of cobblers actually don't use these on Birkenstocks, but we prefer to do it. It looks a lot more original and cleaner when you're using one of these trimmers. The reason why a lot of cobblers don't use it is because basically these are blades that spin a few hundred miles an hour and kind of scary to work with. You know, when you got blades spinning a few hundred miles an hour and you have to get fairly close sometimes, it gets a little scary, but I'm comfortable with it. I've been doing this long enough where I have no issues using the trimmer. But let's go ahead and get started at this point. All right, so we got it trimmed up right now. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to our other machine that has our kind of finishing touch-up sander. I'll show you guys what that looks like, so we'll see you there. All right, so we're over at our other machine that has this attachment on it. This is what's called a numb keg. It just spins around with a 100 to 120 grit sandpaper. Depends what we put it on. I think this one's at the 120. I believe it says it on the inside, but I don't want to take it all apart to double check. But at this point, we're just gonna go ahead and kind of sand everything up here just a little bit and touch it up, and then we're pretty much almost done. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so got that all taken care of. Now we're going to go ahead and clean out a little bit of this glue here, because of course there's going to be a little bit of glue every now and then. So clean that all out and start treating the uppers on these. Alright, so cleaned up a little bit of that glue in there as best we can. Of course there's going to be small little amounts still visible. And that's usually normal, even originally from the factory. I mean, because there's no welt or anything on these, so we're going to have slight visibilities of that. But we use some plantation crepe chunks like this to clean out that old glue. I'll stick that back over here. Now we're going to go ahead and take care of the upper. So at this point, we're going to just open up the buckles again and let the straps go free. Now we've blown this off a few times already with compressed air, so it gets a lot of the dust and grime and everything off of there as best we can, which I forgot my brush, of course. But obviously, since I forgot my brush, I had to grab it real quick. But we're still going to go through, especially where the buckle area is, and just kind of brush it up a little bit. There's a lot of dust and particles that get in there, and I want to try to make sure we get the most out of there. I mean, you can brush over the whole shoe as well. At least the leather is what I recommend, but again, with that compressed air, that really helps things out a lot. Now we're going to move on to our conditioner. We've got the Saphir Oiled Leather Cream, also nicknamed the Greasy Cream. This is from their Beauty to Cure line. It's neat's foot oil and jojoba oil in here, so it's going to do a nice job conditioning it without having any kind of waxes. You know, waxes usually on oiled leather is not that great to have, even though these are actually infused with oils and waxes, but we still don't want to put any kind of additional waxes in there, otherwise it kind of look a little bit funny. But if you have any of these Habana oiled ones, they'll definitely... Sorry, it's been a busy couple of weeks here. A lot of stuff keeps going on and happening, and a lot of everything. Anyways, as I was saying, you know, this is your best conditioner that I would recommend for oiled leathers. There are a lot of other products out there that would work great too, but with Saphir in particular, it's definitely a higher grade quality formula that they use. The other thing is they disclose at least their key ingredients, so you know what you're putting back into the leather without having to be concerned that, well, I hope it doesn't do this or that. And you know, leather is not all the same. It's different. It's like human skin. You know, some people, they have a bit more of an oily skin, some people have drier skin, you know, so there's different products for that. Same with leather. As well with leather, though, they finish it differently, so you got to make sure you're using the proper products and know what you're doing. And there's not much to it. You don't have to be a rocket scientist or a cobbler like us to know what it is. If you're new to leather footwear in general, we always recommend that ask around, ask the employees. Hopefully they're knowledgeable enough where you got the shoes from. And if they aren't, if it doesn't seem like they're too knowledgeable, you could always go to your local cobbler. Most local cobblers should be able to handle any questions you may have about the different types of leathers and everything. If you're still having trouble with that and you don't have a local cobbler, you could always ask us. If you're here in the Denver area, stop on by. We'd be happy to answer any questions or point you in the right direction. If you're not local, you can always give us a call or send us an email. Email would probably be a little bit better, just because if you've got a new pair of shoes and you're not too familiar with the exact type of leather that it is, if you send us a couple of pictures, that'll really help us narrow things down for you. Now, the Habana oiled leather, of course, is not supposed to be shiny, so don't expect it to be very shiny. It's supposed to have kind of that more ruggedy look to it. And as well, you don't want to be putting it on the inside of the straps here. Even though there's jojoba oil in it, there is the neat's foot oil, which is a, I guess you can say, more greasy type fat. So when it combines it with any kind of foot sweat or anything, it can get a little grimy on the feet, at least for the first little while. If you put it just on the top here, that top area usually doesn't touch your foot, so you should be completely fine with it. Just kind of brush up any excess, set that one aside and let it soak in for a minute. Now, if you're somebody that likes to do things yourself, you want to maintain your Birkenstocks, keep good care of them. If you have a leather pair and you've got the products for it and everything, I would recommend at least once a year, maybe maybe 2 or 3 times a year would be ideal. Sorry, like I said, it's been a bit hectic. But anyways, like I said, doing the conditioning a couple times a year definitely will help improve the life expectancy of your Birkenstocks significantly. So get the proper products. If you've got a man-made version, like the Birkenfloor, or maybe it's one of their patent leather versions, those, there isn't much you can do to actually treat them, but just every now and then kind of go through and maybe clean them up a little bit, maybe with a damp cloth. That would be the ideal thing to do, because the Birkenfloor material, and I forgot the other material what they called it, but it's another version of their synthetic materials. They hold up very well. They're actually probably the most durable man-made materials I've come across was made from Birkenstock's lineup. So as well as your cork renew, whether you're using the Kellys like we are, or the Birkenstock version, or whichever cork renew or cork sealant as well as it's called, definitely want to do that at least twice a year. Well, at the very least once a year. At the very least twice a year would be ideal, just to kind of check over your cork to see how it's doing and apply a nice fresh coat on there. Now, these are new footbeds, of course, so we don't need to be putting this on here right now. If we had a pair where we were just resoling them, like the Milano video that I did a little while ago, those we were keeping the original footbeds on them, and so we put a cork sealant on it. Definitely helps improve that life expectancy. Now, as always, I like to mention, Birkenstocks, they are a cork. They are not intended to get wet. So if you're wearing them to the pool, please do not dunk them in water. Do not take them in showers with you. Do not do anything about getting them drenched and wet. If they get a little bit damp because your feet were wet, that's fine. That can evaporate. That moisture will go away very fast. But if you're getting them just drenched, I mean, they're out in the rain, they're in the pool, in the shower, wherever they may be, you try cleaning them off, dunking them in like a bucket of water. Do not do that, please, because it is not a good thing. Cork it's a natural material that's very absorbent. If you get them wet enough, it's going to absorb it. Even with cork sealant on, it's going to penetrate one way or another, whether it's through the top of that footbed or some other way, and that's how your Birkenstocks fall apart a lot quicker. So please, please, please make sure you don't do that. The other main thing that I always like to mention, make sure you are not leaving them in a hot car. Leaving them in a hot car or directly in sunlight, this crepe sole actually can shrink very easily. I've had plenty of shoes from Birkenstock come through where somebody said, oh, I left them in my car, I left them in my shed or my storage unit, which was not temperature controlled in any form of way. The soles not only come unglued, but they actually shrink too. So if you're wanting the most life out of your Birkenstocks, do those things. Condition or clean the uppers, cork sealant or cork renew, and no hot places, as well as no water. Okay, so those are the key things. As far as a little bit of dampness, perfectly fine. If your feet just are wet, you're cleaning it off with a damp cloth, perfectly fine. But anyways, at this point we're all done. Just gotta buff up the upper or the sole just a little bit, and we're all done. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it was interesting to watch for you, how Birkenstocks are rebuilt. Basically, it's a new shoe. The only thing left original are the top leather straps and the buckles. Everything else is new on them. So, it's pretty much like having a brand new pair. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. If you're wanting us to work on any of your Birkenstocks or other shoes, bags, or whatever else you may have as well, you could always bring it over to us if you're local here in Colorado, or at least the Denver area. If you're not close enough to us to get it over to us, you could always go to our website at cobblersplus.com. For any questions, you can give us a call or email. All our contact information is on our website. If you're wanting to ship in your order, just follow the instructions on the mail in order tab, fill out the PDF file, box it up, ship it out to us, and once we get it in, we'll give you a call and talk over the repairs, and once they're all repaired and fixed up for you, we'll ship it back to you. All right, so again, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell icon if you'd like to see more videos like this, or some of our other types of videos too that we've been releasing, and we'll just see you next time.